Have you ever wondered why the PMP exam is so hard to crack? And are you someone wondering why my mock exam scores are not improving despite taking multiple mock exams? Or if you're someone who wants to decipher the secrets of PMP exam questions to pass it on your first attempt, then this video is for you. My name is Ahmed Umar. I'm the founder and project management coach at GAN Scholar. And in this video, we're going to demystify many secrets of the PMP exam. PMP is one of the most challenging exams out there, and there are many reasons for it. First, the vast exam syllabus. Second, it's not an open book test. Third, practical project management experience is needed to answer the questions, and the list goes on. In addition to these reasons, one important reason we shouldn't overlook is the difficulty level of the exam questions. PMI spent a lot of time doing field work to create and maintain these high quality questions. They use various strategies to come up with difficult exam questions. After reviewing and creating thousands of PMP exam practice questions and training 8,000 plus students, I have developed a deep understanding of how these questions are developed. In this video, we're going to discuss about what are the different types of questions you will see in the PMP exam. This video will immensely help you to develop a deep understanding of the PMP exam question types and the key strategies we need to follow to answer them. So let's get started. This is our agenda. We will start this discussion by understanding the PMP exam anatomy. We will briefly cover key pointers about the exam structure, including the number of questions, domains, and weightage of the predictive and natural development approaches for the exam. Next, I will show you the different types of questions with a classification tree. The questions can be broadly classified based on three main attributes, namely design, scenario pattern, and project management topics, otherwise called areas. The next part is the most important segment of this discussion. We will explore a sample for each question type. I have handpicked 10 practice questions that will resemble real exam questions, and we will solve these questions together. During this exercise, we will learn how to identify the question types and what key strategies and exam tips we should follow to solve them. Next, I will share with you a checklist to evaluate your mock exam performance. All of us should have a good mock exam simulator as an integral part of our exam preparation strategy. After taking each mock exam, we must evaluate our areas of weakness and work on them. To identify our areas of weakness, we should review our answers after completing the exam. You can use this checklist I'm going to provide you to perform a SWOT analysis, that is, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This will easily allow you to identify which types of questions you handle well and with which question types you struggle. This will help you to identify and work on your areas of improvements. Lastly, I'm going to provide you with a wonderful present at the end of this video. You will get free access to GAN Scholar Premium Mock Exam Simulator with 180 high quality questions. You can use it to gain hands-on experience with all the type of questions we're going to discuss in this video. So let's get started. Let's understand the PMP exam anatomy. The exam requires us to solve 180 questions in 230 minutes. The average time we must take to solve each question is 76 seconds. At this pace, we can complete 180 questions in 230 minutes. In other words, we must manage to solve 15 questions every 20 minutes. Out of these 180 questions, 175 questions are scored questions. This means they are taken into account for evaluating your exam results. Also, there will be 5 unscored questions. These questions will not influence your exam score and are placed by PMI to validate their quality. If they are good, they may be used in the future exams as scored questions. However, we will not be able to identify which ones are scored and which ones are unscored. So we must deal with all 180 questions with utmost diligence. Now let's explore how the exam is structured. As of today, we have the PMP exam content outline, version July 2021 exam update. Based on this, the exam will evaluate you in 3 knowledge areas called domains. They are people, process, and business. The people domain is about how we manage stakeholders and develop and manage the project teams. 42% of the questions will come from this domain. The process domain is about core project management aspects like initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and controlling, and related tools, techniques, and processes. 50% of the exam questions will come from this domain. The third domain is the business domain. The business domain is about things that happens at the organizational or business level and how they influence the projects and vice versa. 8% of the questions will come from this domain. Domain is the first dimension. Alright, we have the second dimension, and this is about development approach. 50% of the exam questions will be from the predictive development approach, and the remaining 50% will be from the agile and hybrid development approaches. This means in each 3 domains, you can expect an equal number of questions in predictive and agile. Therefore, to pass the exam, we must be well versed with both predictive and agile project management concepts. In this table, you can find the summary of the split and weightage of each domain and development approach. If you want, you can take a snapshot of this table. Now let's talk about the types of questions we can expect in the exam. This forms the heart of our discussion. To ace the PMP exam on your first attempt, we need to be aware of some key exam tips, tricks, and strategies. One crucial strategy is to identify the question types and solve them appropriately. Question can be classified based on 3 main aspects. They are design, scenario pattern, and topics. Let's see what they are. Design pertains to the physical form of the question and how they are constructed. When it comes to scenario pattern focuses on the nature or type of the question scenario. When it comes to topics, we're talking about project management topics or areas. Topic is concerned with the domain or development approach from which the question originates. The central theme here is the scenario pattern. Questions from any topic and from any design fall under one or more of the scenario pattern types listed here. In other words, questions with any design and from any topic will have one or more scenario patterns in it. In summary, design, scenario pattern, and topic question types are not mutually exclusive. Now let's talk more about each of these categories. Let's first talk about design. Under design, we have 5 types of questions. The first one is multiple choice. Second, multiple response. Third, drag and drop. Fourth, fill in the blank. The last one is the hotspot or hot area type questions. I will show you some illustrations now and you will understand what these question types are. First, let's talk about multiple choice type question. What you see here is an example of a multiple choice question. This question presents 4 options with radio buttons. You need to select the correct answer from these 4 options. You can choose only one option, and remember, these questions always come up with 4 options. The next question type we have under design is multiple responses type question. What you see here is a sample of multiple response type question. We need to read and understand the scenario and you will find some options. Out of these given options, you will find more than one correct answer. Multiple response type questions are recent addition to the exam. These questions demand selecting all the applicable correct answers from the given option. Yes, you will find more than one correct answer and check boxes, not radio buttons. We need to select all the correct answers and submit the selected answers. That's about multiple response type question. The third type of question is the drag and drop type question. What you see here is a drag and drop type question. We need to read the question and you will find a list of items on the left hand side. Likewise, you will find another list of items on the right hand side. We need to drag and drop the items on the right into the designated spaces and match them with their counterparts on the left. And that's about drag and drop type questions. The fourth type of question is the fill in the blank. This is also a new addition to the PMP exam. We will be presented with a scenario, often in form of a paragraph or table with lots of project management information, and we would be required to read this given information carefully and answer the question provided below, and we have to fill up the blanks. That's about fill in the blank type questions. The last type of question we have in the design category is the hotspot questions, otherwise called as hot area questions. In the question, you will find a digital graphic, probably a chart or a graph. We will be able to interact with this graph or the chart, and that's why it is called hotspot question. We will interact with the digital graphic by clicking the areas that corresponds to the specific data point on the graph. Here we will interact with the digital graphic by clicking the area that corresponds to a specific data point on the graph. For example, in this graph, we might have to find a point where the actual velocity and the planned velocity of the team are matching. In this case, it is at this junction. Okay, that's pretty much about the question types inside design category. Understanding and mastering these question types is instrumental in navigating the diverse challenges posed by the PMP exam. Before we solve the sample questions for each design pattern type, I would like to share with you some useful information. By now, you might be having this question in your mind. Ahmed, how many questions will come in the real exam from each of these categories? Indeed, that's a valid question. So here you have the answer. All the question types don't have the same weightage. Here's the detail you are looking for. Concerning design types, this is the split. Out of 180 questions, you will see these many questions from each design type. Please refer to this table. And 99% of the time, you will only encounter multiple choice, multiple response, and drag and drop type questions in your exam. You see, though we have many types of question, multiple choice still holds the majority, followed by multiple responses and drag and drop. You would rarely get any hotspot or fill in the blank type questions in your exam. So far we have learnt about types of questions inside design category, and we're going to talk a lot about scenario patterns now. I have 10 different questions for each of this type, scenario pattern type, and we will solve them together. Before this discussion, let's quickly wrap up what we have here. With respect to topic category, the classification, what you see here, are self-explanatory. In the exam, you will see questions from development approaches. Also, we will see questions from domains. We can expect questions from agile, predictive, and hybrid And when it comes to domains, we have people, process, and business domain. I've already given you the weightage of each of this domain and development approach in the previous slide. You can refer to that table for more clarity. All the design type questions and scenario pattern questions will come from one or more of this area. So we don't have to have a separate discussion on this. Going forward, whatever questions we're going to solve here to understand the different types of scenario patterns we have, each questions have picked up the questions from different development approaches and domain. So don't worry, we will see questions from every topic we see here. Before we start solving the questions, first let's understand what is the weightage of each category mentioned below the scenario pattern. Under scenario pattern, we have in total 11 question types. We're going to solve questions for each of this category, but before that, we're going to first understand what is the weightage of each question type. So let's do that first. This is a split up for scenario pattern question types. I have sorted this table in descending order. Remember, you need to understand these question types which are at the top of this table to pass the exam, as they constitute most of the questions. If you need, you can take a snapshot of this slide. These numbers are approximate values and are arrived at based on empirical methods, and trust me, they are highly reliable. So you cannot assume that every question is of equal importance. No. The questions what you see here, the question types what you see here on the top of the table, they have more weightage, as you're going to see many questions in the exam of these question types. Alright, great. Now we are going to enter into an interesting segment of this lecture. We will solve 11 excellent scenario-based questions. One question for each question type listed under the scenario pattern. These are the kind of questions you would see in the PMP exam. We're going to use some ground rules here. This is to ensure effective learning and promote engagement level. First, I will present you with the question and explain to you this question type is about what. Then I would ask you to pause the video and solve the question. After this, I request you to write your answer, that is the selected option, along with your explanation for selecting that option in the comment section. The reason for this exercise is, before I explain the correct answer, you must first baseline your understanding to compare my explanation with yours, isn't it? This will help you to do a retrospective and calibrate the way you solve the question. I personally reply to all of your comments. Without your comments, I wouldn't be able to understand how you think and why aren't you able to find the right answer. It's all about fun and learning, so let's do it. Alright, this is our first question. Well, this is a next type question. First, I will give you a brief overview about this question and then we will solve this question. These type of questions expect us to assess the given scenario and find out the next course of action. That is, what action need to be taken in the immediate future. We should not think about what we should have done in the past or what to be done to ultimately solve the problem. You will see approximately 25 questions of this type in the exam. Remember, the next type of questions are always about the future. We need to always think what should be done in the next immediate future. Now let's solve this question. You can pause the video and find the answer and put it in the comment along with the explanation, and then we will solve this question together. Alright? Let's read and understand this question. You are the project manager of the satellite development project and you have encountered a major quality issue during the project execution. So we are in the middle of the project execution. As a result, you have raised a change request to perform necessary rework
requiring additional time and money beyond the project's baseline. So already prepared some budget and schedule. Now to address this quality issue, we need extra time and money, and therefore we need to re-baseline the process. And to do this, definitely we need to follow the change management procedure. The change control board has reviewed and approved your change request. What should be your next step to proceed with the approved change? That's the question. Next is the important keyword here. Now let's solve this question. In the question scenario, it is mentioned that the change request has been approved. To solve this question, first we need to visualize the change management process steps. When a change request is raised, first we need to do an impact analysis of the change request, otherwise called as the CR. So impact analysis is our first step. And then we have to find option to implement the change. You can implement the change in more than one way. So we have to find out which is the most economical way, for which option you need minimal resources, time and money. So that's about finding options. After this, it will be reviewed by the CCB. The PM should present the impact analysis along with the options for the change control board's review and approval. If they find this change is good, needed, then they will approve the change request. After the CR is approved, we need to go for modifying or updating the project management plan. Let's say CR is approved. You have to add a scope, new work package to your WBS. Well, to implement this new scope, we need money, we need time, we need resources. This new item might bring in some new quality issues or risk. So we have to make adjustments to all the components inside our project management plan, like the cost baseline, schedule baseline, risk register, quality management plan, and so on. So that should be the next immediate step. Because the CR is approved, don't assume that you can directly go and implement the CR. That's what we normally think, isn't it? That's the ultimate solution. But when it comes to next type questions, we have to only think, what is the next immediate action we need to take? Don't think about the ultimate solution. In this case, the ultimate solution would be implementing the approved CR, isn't it? So you can eliminate that option. Yes, we need to implement the CR, but in the question it is asked, what should be your next step? Next means we should only think about the next immediate step or action we need to take, not the ultimate solution. Remember that. You can eliminate options C and D because if the CCB has approved the CR, this means they have already reviewed the CR, and for reviewing the CR change request, first we need to complete the impact analysis and then we have to find the available options to implement the CR. These are already done. That's why the CCB is able to approve your CR. And therefore, the next immediate action we need to take to implement the approved CR is to update the project management plan. Do all the necessary adjustments to the project management plan, like adding extra money, time, changing their schedule. If there are any new risk identified, create the risk response, add the contingency reserves, and so on. This is the way how you need to solve next type questions. Now I'm going to give you some useful exam tips to solve next type questions. The first tip is you will always find keywords like next, best, future, and after, etc. So look for these keywords. You will normally find these keywords in the last sentence of the question. Second tip is don't think about the ultimate solution for the given problem. I have mentioned this already. Think only about what immediate course of action we need to take. Don't think about the ultimate solution we need to take to solve the problem. This is why many students pick the wrong option. For example, in this case, the CR is approved. So before implementing the CR, we must adjust the project management plan. Don't think about implementing the CR. Third, A strong understanding of the process flow will help you immensely to solve this type of questions. If you need to see how things will be done or what are the steps we need to follow to manage the situation, you need to know the processes. So use the right reading materials, study materials like the PMBOK guide, process group, a practice guide to develop a strong understanding of the project management process flow. This is our second question. This is an example of prevent or avoid type question. These types of questions are about the past. We have to always think about what happened in the past. We don't have to think about the future or the present, all right? What happened, what could have been done in the past to prevent the situation or something from happening. We neither think about the future nor the present. If you recall, next type question is about the future, what we need to do in the future, immediate future. Whereas prevent or avoid type questions are all about the past. We need to look back in time and think what happened, what could have been done to avoid the situation, or what is the real cause of this problem. That's about prevent or avoid type question. Okay, we normally do retrospective. Now let's solve this question. You can pause the video and find the answer, come up with your explanation and put them in the comment, and then we will solve this question together. Let's solve this question together. Gilbert, a project manager, is conducting earned value management and discovers that the current CPI, that is the cost performance index of the project, is 1.7. 1.7 is great. If anything greater than 1, then the project is performing well. The cost performance of the project is great. Surprisingly, despite having a higher CPI, the sponsor lacks confidence in the project's performance. What could be the potential reason for this? Nice question, wonderful question. The point is, CPI is good, but still your sponsor is not okay with your project performance. What could be the reason? So this is an example of prevent or avoid type question. You see, we need to look back in time to solve this question. What happened in the past and why the sponsor is not okay with a better CPA number. Let's understand this question and the scenario better to solve this question. In earned value management, the cost performance index, the CPI, is a measure of project's cost efficiency. If your project CPI exceeds 1, above 1, greater than 1, it indicates cost effectiveness. This means you are spending less money for the amount of work you actually earned in your project. You're spending money lesser than your planned budget. However, despite a CPA of 1.7, this means you are doing really well from cost point of view. The sponsor is concerned. What could be the reason behind this? That's the question. This is a prevent or avoid type question, focusing on potential reason. Unlike the next type of questions where we delve into the future, what should be our next step, we don't think about the past, isn't it? There are many reasons for better CPA value, like you did the good risk management, you have a proper stakeholder engagement, quality metrics are great in your project, and so you are not doing a lot of rework. Because of this, you are spending less money than the planned budget, and this is an exciting situation. You are doing really well. However, there are some reasons for a good CPI. Still, they're not useful for the project. These are red flags. One reason is, what if you have made inflated budget? Before we start the project, we do the estimations and come up with the baselines, the schedule baseline, and the cost baseline. For this, we need to make estimations. Let's say we did the overestimation for all of our work packages and created a inflated budget. Now, when we do the work, whatever money we spend, this will be lesser than the planned budget because we did inflated estimations, right? And this is the reason why in this case the CPA value is greater than 1, and in spite having a better CPA value, your sponsor is not happy because better CPA here doesn't mean that we are performing really well. It's because we have an inflated budget, your CPA value is good. Okay, so that's the catch. That's the reason why your sponsor lacks confidence in the project's performance. Now let's see the options. Option A can be eliminated because if the CPA value is greater than 1, the estimated completion EAC value will be under the budgeted amount. That is, the EAC value will be lesser than the budgeted completion. So you can eliminate option A. Then let's see the other options. Option B can also be eliminated because if the CPA value is greater than 1, the planned value will be lesser than the earned value. That is, PV will be lesser than the EV, indicating good cost performance. So you can eliminate option B as well. Let's see option C. The team did not reference the lessons learned repository during cost estimation. Well, that's a good option. We'll keep it open. Before that, let's finish with option D. Option D could be a potential reason, but if the changes to the cost baseline were approved through proper change control processes and valid reasons, it should not affect the sponsor's confidence, isn't it? So you can eliminate this option as well. And this one does not really influence the CPA value. CPA can be greater than 1 for various reasons, but definitely D is not the reason. So you can eliminate D as well. The left-out option is option C. Well, this could be the potential reason why your sponsor lacks confidence in your project performance. During the estimation process, the team did not do proper estimations. They came up with inflated estimations. So the baseline against which you are comparing your actual expenses are not, the actual expense is not valid. The baseline is not valid because you formed it based on inflated or overestimations. We overestimated the numbers. And why this happened? The team did not refer to the lessons learned repository during the cost estimation. Always remember, estimations are guesswork. We have to make educated guesses. If you want to make educated guesses, we must have knowledge to make the estimations, or we need to gain this knowledge from referring some materials. For example, we have to refer the guidelines as processes defined by organization for making estimates. We need to refer to the lessons learned repository and learn from others' mistakes. What went wrong in the previous projects when they did estimations. There could also be some information about the best practices we can apply to come up with more reliable estimates. The team failed to do this, and that's the reason why they have an inflated estimations. And because of inflated estimations, we get a bigger CPA number, and that's not a real indication of the real project performance. And therefore, option C is the right answer. Great. If your answer is C, and also your explanation and my explanation are same, then great. Now I'm going to give you some tips for the exam to solve, prevent or avoid type of questions. Tip number 1, you will always find keywords like prevent, avoid, or what causes this problem or issue, potential reason for this situation, and so on. We must always should look back and find out the reason or figure out what could have been done in the past to avoid this situation. You see here, in this case, potential reason. So look for words like prevent, avoid, potential reason for this problem, and so on. Second tip is, don't select options that will solve the given problem, because most of the times our brain naturally think to solve problems, isn't it? When you read a scenario and if you find a problem statement, we think how to solve this problem, and that's not okay with the prevent or avoid type questions, because they are not asking us to solve the problem, they are asking us what could have been done in the past to prevented this issue from happening, or what was the reason, what is the reason for us to have this problem now. So you have to think about the past, don't look forward, always look backward. So those are the tips for solving prevent or avoid type of questions. Great, let's solve the next one. Okay, here we have the third question. This is solve type question. Let me give you a brief overview of this question type. This is about the present. These question types are either about the past or the future. Past is about prevent or avoid type question, and future is about next type of questions. And this is about the present, solve. We need to think, we have to understand the given problem statement, and as a PM we need to think and find out what action we should take to solve the current issue or the problem stated in the question. That's about solve type question. You will be presented with a problem statement and will be expected to solve it in the right way. This question will test your ability to understand a project management situation and resolve it using your experience, knowledge about project management processes, tools, techniques, and methods. Now let's solve this problem. You can pause your video and solve this question, find the answer. Along with that, you can also come up with the explanation and put them in the comment. Then we will solve this question together. All right? Okay, let's solve this question. In an automotive project, the team anticipated that the government would develop more stringent safety standards in the next 6 months. So we are talking about something could happen 6 months later. By the time your project will be in execution phase. So this means you are currently in planning phase. The team created WBS components for the deliverables associated with the about to change compliance requirement, and didn't create any scheduled activities for these WBS components and concluded the planning. Very important piece of information. So here we find a couple of critical details we need to solve this problem, this question. First one is, you can figure out we are in planning stage. So this question is based on predictive, because you see planning, execution as separate phases, and also we are preparing the WBS. WBS is a part of scope baseline, and we don't prepare this normally in agile projects. We create a iteration backlog, not WBS, and also we maintain the scope in the form of product backlog. Okay, so we need to find out where are we at the moment. The team is creating the WBS and they are concluding the planning. This means they are here, right? So they are aware that some of the items are not clear to them, some requirements are not available. They need to wait for 6 more months to get those requirements, as they need to come from the government. So they cannot wait for 6 more months and delay the start of execution. So they are making a good decision by creating some placeholders inside the WBS for the items which are not clear, for the items for which we do not have the requirements at the moment. Well, these components, WBS components, these placeholders are called as planning packages. All right. If you go through create WBS process, you can find this inside 2 books. One is PMBOK 6, another one is Process Group Practice Guide. Both are published by PMI. You will find more details about planning packages. All right. If you do not have enough information, requirements about a particular WBS component, then you cannot create activity list for that particular item and cannot prepare the schedule. So we will wait till we get the requirements and we progressively elaborate these items later, the planning packages later, when we get the requirements. Till then, they will be called as a planning package and they will reside in the WBS as a placeholder. Okay. Approximately 6 months later, as expected, the government released the anticipated new standard. So 6 months fast forward, the team is doing the execution, and somewhere in the middle of execution, that is 6 months later from the date of planning closure, we got the requirements from the government. Now what should we do now? Normally you will see keywords like now or issue resolution in the question. That's about solve type question. We need to solve this problem right away. What is the immediate action you will take now? Okay, that's about solve type question. Now let's see the options. This question is about progressive elaboration and planning packages. WBS components with no detailed schedule activities are called planning packages. The project planning and baselines are already done when the new standard is released, isn't it? We are in the middle of execution, and during this we get the new safety standards from the government. It got released. The project planning and baselines are already done when the new safety standard is released. The new requirements need to be added to the scope baseline planning package in the WBS, and the respective work packages will be further decomposed into activities. A CR is needed to incorporate the new requirements and make necessary changes to the required project management plan components. Now imagine the situation. You already prepared the plan, including the scope baseline, because we know that WBS is part of the scope baseline. In the middle of execution, we got all the requirements about the new safety standard from the government. Now we need to incorporate these things inside our requirements document, and since we have the requirements with us, now there's no need for maintaining these placeholders inside our WBS. We need to perform the work, and so we need to create the activity list, isn't it? So we will go back to the WBS and work on this planning packages, otherwise the placeholders, and develop them into work packages and create the required activity list and prepare the schedule. So we need to change both the WBS, which is part of the scope baseline, also the schedule. We're gonna come up with new activities, and we're gonna incorporate them inside our schedule. Therefore, we're gonna modify our schedule baseline as well. So in this situation, out of these 4 options, which one would be the best? A can be eliminated as this is not an issue. Issues are unknown or expected events or conditions. A can be eliminated as this is not an issue. Issues are unknown or unexpected events or condition, and when they happen, we need to resolve them with a workaround. In this case, we were anticipating a change in the compliance requirements or the safety standard, so it's not something we need to manage as an issue. So you can eliminate option A. Also, we don't have to treat this as a risk. We are elaborating on the requirements as we discover the new ones. For this, we neither need a risk response or contingency reserve. This is not about risk. This is about progressive elaboration, and we are prepared. That's why we mark these items inside the WBS as planning packages, isn't it? So we can eliminate both option B and D because these 2 options are related to risk management. You neither need contingency reserve, nor you don't have to add this item to the risk register and manage it as a risk. Both are invalid. So you can eliminate B and D. The option left out is C, Raise change request to incorporate the new compliance requirement. That's exactly what we need to do. Because if you want to do progress elaboration of your WBS, that is converting a planning package into a work package and develop the activity list, we're going to work on or update both the scope baseline and the schedule baseline. Therefore, we must follow the change management procedure. Raise a change request to incorporate the new compliance requirement. That would be the right step we need to take now to manage this topic or this situation. So the right answer is option C. Great. I hope that you also found this option and my explanation and your reason are matching. If not, you need to calibrate the way how you think and solve problems or questions. Okay. Now I'm going to give you some list of advice or exam tips you can use to manage and work with solve type of questions. First, you will find keywords like now, solve, find a solution, corrective action, fix, issue resolution, etc. in the question. Second, these questions are mostly about issue management, so be clear about all the concepts related to it, like workarounds, issue log, management reserves, change management, etc. Third, all monitor and control processes outputs have business with this type of questions. Because inside monitoring and control is where we compare the actuals with the references, the KPIs or the baselines, and identify gaps. If there is a gap, then we have a problem or issue and we must address. All monitor and control processes, example, quality issues, schedule variance, cost variance, scope creep, conflict management from managed team process, all these things are outcomes of monitor and control processes like control quality, monitor risk, control cost, control scope, and so on. Okay. The fourth tip is critical thinking and expert judgment are vital for solving these questions. So you have a project management situation and issue. To solve it, you need to think like a project manager, real project manager, isn't it? So expert judgment and critical thinking are important. Remember, PMP exam is for experienced project manager. You need to demonstrate that you have minimum 36 months of project management experience to take this exam. We need to furnish this information in our PMP exam application. So remember that you have to think like a real PM. Apply your knowledge, your experience to solve problems. Fifth one, follow ethics and servant leadership when solving the problems. If you're going to take an action and if you feel that this will affect the people, it's not good for the people, don't do it. Also, follow ethics and values. Plus, adhere to all the processes and guidelines as established by your organization. They will be part of OPAS, Organizational Process Assets. And also all the guidelines as stipulated by the government while resolving the issues. We should not deviate from these guidelines and processes defined by your organization and the government agencies. Okay, that's pretty much about the tips and tricks you need to know to solve type of questions. Great. Let's move forward and we will solve the next type of question. The next type of question we're going to solve is the accept or not type question. This question type is all about finding the odd man out. Out of the given options, we will find the ones which are not in line with the given scenario. We must definitely apply our project management process knowledge and expert judgment to find the options that are inappropriate and different. Now let's solve this question. As usual, you can pause the video and solve the question come up with your answer and explanation, share them in the comments, and then we will solve this question together. Okay, let's solve this question. Peter, a PMP member, is assisting you in addressing a bottleneck in your project following the Kanban methodology. This question is from Agile. You see this word, Kanban. Kanban methodology is one of the Agile methodology we use in project management. The cycle time of a particular process step is excessively long, causing it to act as a bottleneck and reducing overall throughput. So we are learning about many new terms like the process step, bottleneck, and throughput and so on. Let's learn about them in detail in some time. Okay, despite assigning your most skilled developer to this step, it remains inefficient. To improve the throughput, Peter has provided several pieces of advice. However, which of the following option will not help in increasing throughput? So this is about not type. You see here, you could find the keyword not. There are 4 options for us. Out of these 4 options, one is not going to help us in improving the throughput. That's about this question. And we need to find which option is that. A process is made of many process steps. Let's take a software development process. We have 4 process steps here. And the development process step has the highest cycle time. So it is called the bottleneck process step. Well, cycle time is the average time we take to complete a particular process step. Let's say you are doing cooking. Cooking is a process. We have many process steps in it, right? We need to first unpack the vegetables and the other ingredients. Then we need to wash the vegetables. That's the second step. Third step, we need to chop them. Then we need to cook, and then we need to serve the dinner, right? So we have many process steps involved in this cooking process. And we need to find out which process step takes a lot of time. So the time taken to complete each process step is called the cycle time. Some process steps will take very less cycle time, like within 2 minutes you can wash the vegetables, but to cook them you need 30 minutes. Alright, so therefore in this cooking process, preparing the dinner, in this process, cooking is the bottleneck process step. If you take this example, a software development process, we have 4 processes: design, development, integration, and testing, and we have their corresponding cycle time below them. If you look at the cycle time, development process takes 8 hours of time, and if you compare this with other process step cycle time, this is the longest or highest cycle time, isn't it? So therefore, in this process, in this software development process, development step is the one which takes more time, cycle time, or has the highest cycle time, and therefore this is the bottleneck in this process, otherwise called as bottleneck process step. After knowing the bottleneck process step, we need to understand what is meant by throughput. Throughput is the amount of work we can complete for a given window of time, and the throughput of a process is determined by the bottleneck process step. Alright, in other words, a bottleneck process step determines how much work can get completed in a given time frame, otherwise called as throughput, the work completion rate. To increase the throughput of a process, we must reduce the bottleneck process steps cycle time. Here, Peter has recommended many pieces of advice to achieve this, and one of the pieces of advice is invalid, and we need to find that one. That's why this is a not type question or except type question. Let's see the options. Although avoid multitasking and context switching can help increase throughput in general, as it is a form of a waste. Multitasking is a form of a waste. So if you avoid multitasking, you can certainly increase the throughput, but it is not applicable to this given scenario. In this question, it is mentioned that there is only one resource assigned to the bottleneck process step. You see, you have assigned your skilled developer. You have assigned only one person, not developers, developer. Since you have assigned only one resource to the bottleneck process step, multitasking is something not viable. In the question, it is mentioned that there is only one resource assigned to the bottleneck process step, and because it is the bottleneck process step, there will be only one item in the WIP, otherwise called as work in progress, leaving no room for multitasking. If you have so many items with you, so many tasks with you, you can work on each task for some time and switch to the other task. Well, in this scenario, you have only one developer, and because this person is working in the bottleneck process step, he or she is engaged with that work, only with that particular work. Only one work is there for this developer to deal with. And therefore, the issue at hand is reducing the cycle time of the bottleneck process step. Option B, C, D will indeed aid in achieving this objective. So if you think about what are the actions we can take to reduce the cycle time of the bottleneck process step, definitely option B, C, and D will help us, not A. Allocating more resources will decrease cycle time, and therefore it's a good option. Let's say if you add more resources to the development process step, then most likely the workloading will come down and people can do more work in a given window of time. Most likely the cycle time will reduce to half. So option B is valid. Let's keep it. And when it comes to split the process step into two separate parts and treat each part as an individual process step, this also will help. So you have a process, a development process. It has a lot of work, and that's why the developer is taking more time. If you can split it into two separate process steps, development step 1 and development step 2, and allocate different resources for each of these tasks or process steps, then you can increase the throughput. So it's also a valid suggestion, so you can keep it. The next option is automate certain tasks within the bottleneck process step to reduce the cycle time. Yes, this is also a good strategy to reduce the cycle time of the bottleneck process step. Let's say almost everything done inside this process step is manual. To speed up the work, you can do some automation. You can automate some work that will help the developer to complete some of the work with a shorter time span and save a lot of time in the development process step. This will eventually bring down the cycle time of the development process step. If your bottleneck process step cycle time is coming down, this means your throughput will increase. And therefore, all the three options are valid except this one. This is the odd man out. Avoid multitasking as it leads to waste and time loss due to context switching. This is something invalid. So because this is a accept or not type question, you can omit all the right answers and or the valid options and then go with this odd man out. Okay, that is option A. So option A is the correct answer for this question. Great. Now let me share you some piece of tips you can use to solve accept or not type question in the exam. First, we will see keywords like not or except in the question. In this case, we are able to see this keyword not, isn't it? So that's the first tip. Second tip is, normally to solve this type of questions, first we need to identify all the appropriate options. If you recall how we solved this question, I didn't search for the invalid or inappropriate option. Instead, first I found all the valid ones and then I eliminated all of them at the end. This is the strategy you need to use. If someone asks you
which of the following is not an estimation technique? First, find all the options which are related to estimation or useful for doing estimation, and then negate all of them to find the odd man out. Great. With that, we are done with accept or not type question. Now let's solve the next question.
The next type of question is critical thinking. This question type is about whether you are a good decision maker. PMI wants to evaluate whether you can think like a real PM. A scenario will be presented and questions expect us to judge or provide an opinion about the situation. Here we are expected to demonstrate our project management wisdom by making good decisions. Evaluate the piece of information provided in the question and figure out what would you do or recommend in such situations. This question type is close to the solve type questions, but here you don't have to solve an issue but provide your opinion or assessment about the given situation. Now let's solve this question. As usual, you can pause the video, solve this question, provide your answer and explanation in the comments, and then we will solve this question together. Okay, let's solve this question. As a leader of an engineering team responsible for developing a state-of-the-art airplane engine with various components, you have a mix of design approaches to consider. Some components can be directly benchmarked from the predecessor design, allowing for reduced development time. However, there are other innovative components that require experimentation and feedback to evolve them into their final acceptable state. As a project manager, which approach would you recommend for the team? Excellent question. In the question, it is mentioned that some of the major deliverables can be produced by referring to the previously available design. That is, we can benchmark the predecessor designs and extract the requirement. This certainly reduces solution complexity and requirement uncertainty of those components and deliverables, isn't it? So these components or work packages can be done using predictive development approach. We're talking about these components, all right? And we also know that we have other deliverables that are innovative and require experimentation and feedback to progressively discover the requirements and build them. These components cannot be developed using a predictive development approach, as we need to discover the requirements and perform experiments and trials to build a solution. So we must use agile methodology to build these components. Since we have both type of work in this project, it is better to use a hybrid development approach to complete this project. Let's see why we need to eliminate the other options. Iterative, adaptive, and incremental are different types of development approaches we have in Agile project management. Incremental is suitable for large projects where the solution complexity level is high, but the requirement uncertainty level is almost zero. When it comes to iterative development approach, it is best suitable for projects where the product we need to develop is small but complex. We may not have so many modules inside the product for applying incremental delivery method. However, to discover the requirements, we have to seek the client's feedback by conducting demos. Whereas adaptive is a combination of both incremental and iterative development approaches, we use it when we have both challenges. That is, the project requirements uncertainty level is high, also the solution complexity level is high. All the three methods are not suitable for managing the given project. Therefore, we can eliminate all of them. Let me give you something useful for you to understand when to apply which development approach. You can create a matrix with 4 blocks in it. Here we will keep the requirement uncertainty level. This means if you want to do a project, we need to know all the product requirements. If most of the requirements are not available, then we say the requirement uncertainty level is high. So in this case, we have high and low. In some projects, we know almost all the requirements when we begin the project. So it's easy to do such projects using predictive. And in this axis, in x-axis, let's consider product complexity or solution complexity level. We don't know how to build the solution. The requirements are available, but we don't know how to build the solution. For example, you are building a space probe and you want to create a power system, build a power system that can power this space probe. Well, this is not an easy solution. We might know the spec, like we need a power supply inside the space probe which can provide 24-volt direct power supply, direct current. But how to develop the solution? It's not something simple. We need to create a portable nuclear reactor and keep it on board. This is not something easy to develop. The same with any mega projects or products which are very new to us. For example, developing a intelligent AI system or coming up with advanced software or a vaccine. Well, these are about complex solutions. In some projects, you might know how to build the solution. There's a lot of know-hows will be available, methods you can benchmark. So you won't see much complexity in developing such work or doing such work. For example, construction. If you're building a simple construction, you don't have to worry about the complexity. We know everything about concrete, steel, and cement, isn't it? So complexity level is low. Whereas there are some projects where you will find high level of solution complexity. So with this, you can create 4 combinations. Projects with high requirement uncertainty and solution complexity. You can do these projects using adaptive. When it comes to projects where you have very low requirement uncertainty and solution complexity, you can use predictive. Sometimes you may not have both the challenges. Let's take this case. The requirement uncertainty level is high. Definitely it's a challenge, but the solution complexity level is low. This means you can do this project using iterative approach. Finally, the 4th category we have is this one. Projects with low requirement uncertainty, but the solution complexity level will be super high. Then you can split the product into small modules and work on them. Deliver one after another. That's about incremental. Alright, so if you want to learn more about development approach life cycles, and there are many concepts related to development approach and life cycles like Stacy model, agile suitability filter, and you need a good reference material to master these concepts. And the good news is I have one. I will share this blog with you. I've written this blog a few years before for my students. I will share this link with you. You will find a lot of excellent infographics and clear explanation to understand various development approach and life cycles we need to know to pass the PMP exam. The name of the blog is When to Apply Agile. You can go to our website GAN Scholar and read this article. So here we have the Stacy model, how to find out which method we need to use to do a project, how to make that decision, and various other attributes we need to consider for selecting the right development approach. And here we have something called suitability filter, how we consider various attributes to evaluate whether the which method development approach is the right one for a project, and the difference between life cycles and development approach, classification of development approach and life cycles. And for every life cycle or development approach, you have a lot of infographics and detailed explanation, illustrations. You will definitely find this article very useful. So please read this blog if you're preparing for your exam, or let's say you are in general want to learn about the various development approaches we have in project management and when to apply which method. You can read this blog. I will provide this link in the description. Alright, let's go back to the question. So the right answer is hybrid development approach, because in this case we have a combination of both. That is, there are some components for which we have something to benchmark. This means we have very less requirement uncertainty and solution complexity. Those components can be developed using predictive development approach. The remaining components for which we need to do experimentations and do trial and error to discover the requirements, those items can be done using adaptive or agile, and that's why we are going with hybrid. If my explanation and your explanation or thinking are in line, congratulations. Otherwise, you can calibrate your way of thinking. Great. So that's about critical thinking type question. And I'm going to share you some tips, useful tips for the exam. You can use these tips to handle and manage this type of questions. The first exam tip is, you will find phrases like, what do you think? Your opinion, or how do you feel about this situation? What would you recommend to the team? Or if you were in this position, what would have been your reaction, etc. You will see such phrases in this type of questions. Second pointer or tip for the exam is, to solve this type of questions, you rely on project management experience, knowledge you gain from the PMBOK guide, and common sense. So apply them. Third technique is, follow ethics and servant leadership while making the decision. Exhibit ownership. That's also important. We need to own the problem and we have to demonstrate accountability. Plus, adhere to all the processes and guidelines as defined by your organization and the government while making the decision or providing the recommendation. Great. With that, we are done with this question. Let's move forward and solve the next type of question.
If you think the questions are great and you need more questions like this to practice, then here's the good news. I'm giving you free access to a full mock exam simulator from GAN Scholar with 180 high-quality questions, including drag and drop, multiple responses, infographic, otherwise called as hot area type questions. The simulator is loaded with features like mark for review, exam timer, pass and continue the test, detailed explanation for all the correct answers, and a lot of other exciting features. You will also get a detailed exam report to easily identify your areas of weaknesses and strengths, plus a user-friendly test review interface to review your answers. You can use this mock exam simulator to identify your knowledge gaps and work on them. And this will certainly help you to crack your exam on your first attempt. If you like, you can buy other mock exam question sets for very affordable pricing from our website.
The next type of question we're going to solve here is intertwined type questions. Project management processes are integrative by nature. They overlap, interact, and influence each other. For example, an identified and managed risk is a prevented issue, isn't it? This means risk and issue management are in a way connected. Another example would be a poorly managed change request may lead to many project issues. But if you manage a change request implementation carefully, you can keep the overall project risk exposure minimum. This means change, risk, and issue management processes influence each other isn't it? This applies to other project management processes. PMI uses attribute of project management processes to set complex scenarios and test whether are we able to navigate through the complexity of the question by dissecting how the processes interact and figure out the outcome or the current condition. Alright, now let's solve this question. As usual, you can pause the video, solve this question, and provide your answer and your comments in the comment section, and then we will solve this question together. Great. Now let's solve this question. A highly qualified team is working on a project setting up a new gen nuclear reactor. During planning, the team made extensive risk identification. One of the identified risks is highly unlikely to occur but can affect the project objectives if it occurs. The team accepted this risk and named it as Risk X and kept it under the radar. And there's an important pointer or information in the question. When it comes to risk management, we have various risk management strategies like exploit, mitigate, avoid, share, transfer, and so on. We use a strategy called accept strategy. For accepted risk, we don't really plan for any risk responses or contingency reserves to manage them proactively. Maybe because these risks are within our organization risk threshold and therefore we treat them as least important. So we just accept them. If they're going to occur, we are ready to bear the impact because we know that the impact is not going to be of big scale and therefore we are fine with this sort of risks. Let's move forward. In the middle of the project, the team went through work performance data, did variance analysis, and identified that the variance was caused by risk X. Whenever we learn something by analyzing the work performance data means when we do the work, when we perform the work during execution, we generate a lot of project work related information or data like task completion dates, how many tasks we have completed, how much money we have spent, number of quality issues we have, rejection, scrap rate. That's about work performance data. So without performing the work, we won't have this data. Now, as part of monitor and control processes, we collect all this data, work performance data, and compare them as against our plan or reference to see are we going according to our plan or is there any deviation. We call this deviation as variance. Therefore, in this situation, that the team is facing an issue. Yes, they have identified risk X before, but they didn't come up with any proactive measures to address the risk. They accepted the risk. Now, after going through the work performance data, they found that risk X has occurred without their knowledge. Very good question. At last, it is stated what is the next thing the PM has to do, what you are expected to do now. Okay, what is your next course of action? Though you see this keyword next, this question is a classic example for intertwined question. You see, you need to know about both risk management, issue management to solve this question. Plus, to eliminate some of the options, you need to know about how risk management, issue management interact with change management. Alright, it's a good example for intertwined type questions. Now let's solve this question. The summary is the team has identified a risk in the past and accepted it. That is, they didn't plan for any risk response as the risk was puny and within the project risk threshold. We should know that for an accepted risk, we won't plan for any risk response or maintain contingency reserve. Therefore, we can directly eliminate option D, as this is related to contingency reserve and risk management. Updating risk register is also not an option as risk X has already become an issue. It has occurred. If you foresee something going to happen in the future, it's okay to update the risk register and manage that risk proactively. In this case, you found risk X has occurred after investigating the work performance data or analyzing the work performance data, isn't it? So you can eliminate this option as well, update the risk register. Because risk X occurred without the knowledge of the team members and they found it by analyzing the work performance data, isn't it? This means the first thing we should do is to figure out a way to resolve this issue. And the first step is to resolve an issue is to update the issue log. This means the first thing we need to do is to figure out a way to resolve this issue. And to resolve an issue, we need to first update the issue log. We need to make an entry into the issue log that we have a new open issue. You can eliminate option C because creating a change request may be needed for implementing the workaround we're going to create to resolve the identified issue. However, for now, the first step is to update the issue log. So the right answer here is option B. Update the issue log. Great. If you have selected option B, congratulations. In case your answer or explanation is not in line with what I have provided now, then you need to calibrate your understanding. I hope that you are clear with the intertwined type questions, and I'm going to give you some useful tips for managing them, this type of questions in the exam. Basically, we need to have a deep understanding of interdependencies between the project management processes. In this question, you can see the scenario is set by integrating risk, issue, and change management processes. Though this question is the next type of question, if you look at the overall scenario, this can be categorized as an intertwined type question. So first tip for the exam is, you easily identify these type of questions by seeing more than one process name or knowledge area stated in the question, and you will find they are interacting. Second tip is, when you read the scenario, after reading the scenario, create a mind map. How the processes are interacting in the given situation, see what happened in the past, what has happened now, what will happen in the future. This will help you to create a mind map, and with this mind map, you can easily reason with the given scenario and find the option. You would need little practice here to master this mind map approach. Whenever you want to prepare a mind map, you can make a rough sketch of the given scenario and represent it as a picture. You can use your rough note or your scrap sheet to do this. Even in the exam, you will get the rough note or the scribble sheet. You can use this for creating the mind map to solve intertwined type of questions. Third, a deep understanding of dependency between the processes is crucial to solve this type of questions. Remember that. Whenever you prepare for read something, check whether this process is influencing any other processes and have a very strong understanding of how the processes interact. Fourth, mostly you will get these type of questions from predictive or hybrid development approach. It's very difficult to set questions, this type of questions from Agile. The fifth tip is read the process group, a practice guide, or part 2 of the PMBOK 6th edition to master the process flow of all the 49 processes we have in predictive. Great, so that's about the tips for the exam. By the way, if you're interested in learning the interdependencies between risk, issue, and change management, I have an excellent blog for you. You can go to my website and refer to this blog, a primer on project risk, issue, and change request and their dependencies. You will find a lot of valuable information about change management, issue management, risk management. We'll start with what are unknown unknowns, known unknowns, and you will find many other useful information like how to manage issues and change requests, and what is the importance of monitor risk process, what is the workflow we need to use to manage risks and issues, how they are similar, how both management reserve and contingency reserve, how they work, and many more information. So you can read this blog. Here you have an excellent workflow flow chart. This captures how issue, change management, risk management related activities and artifacts influence each other. So please read this article if you want. You can solve many intertwined type questions in the exam coming from issue, risk and change management effortlessly. Great. Now let's talk about the next type of question. This is called as ITTO. That means input, tool, techniques and output. Otherwise called as process flow type questions. These questions are about whether are we aware of the required project management tools, methods and techniques, and when to use them. You see here, ITTO questions are a combination of next or avoid or not type of questions with the critical thinking type questions, provided they are confined to only models, tools and techniques used in project management. After understanding the scenario based on the tool or technique mentioned in the question, we need to find out which process the project management team is involved in, or which technique or tool they have applied or they should use. Now let's solve this question. You can pause the video, solve this question and provide your answer in the comment section, and then we will solve this question together. Okay, let's solve this question. A project manager is managing a project following a predictive development approach. So it's clearly mentioned which methodology we are applying. The project team is currently performing a project management process that produces quality data like leak defects, number of rejections and scrap rate. They didn't mention the team is involved in which process, but they mention what that process produces, what are the outcome of that particular process. They're going to use this data to develop the quality report. So they are giving clue that they're going to use the collected data, that is leak defects, number of rejections and scrap rate, to create the quality report. Which project management process is the team currently performing? So that's a question. So as I already mentioned, you could see there are some tools or outcomes of a particular process will be mentioned in the question. We need to find out which process the team is involved in this case. So let's solve this question. The first one is, an important clue in this question is the team is currently performing a process where they produce quality data like leak defects, rejection and scrap rate. This means they are engaged in evaluating the product quality, and this is part of control quality process. Inside the control quality process, we conduct activities like testing, verification, validation, inspection and so on to ensure product quality. And when we do this, we produce work performance data like leak defects, rejection and scrap rate. Of course, we use these quality data to prepare the quality report, and this is part of the managed quality process. However, the team has yet to begin the managed quality process and currently performing control quality. And therefore, the right answer is control quality, and you can eliminate the remaining things. Managed quality is about preparing the quality report. They're going to begin this process. They are currently in control quality, and that's why we get the work performance data like leak defects and number of rejection. You can eliminate managed communication. Sharing the report will be part of managed communication. And planned quality management is about capturing the quality objectives of the project and identifying what are the resources and activities we need to perform to achieve the quality objectives. And the scenario is not in line with the planned quality management process, so you can eliminate that as well. So the right answer is C, control quality. If you have found the right answer, and also if your explanation is in line with my explanation, then congratulations. Now I'm going to give you some tips to solve ITTO or process flow type questions. First tip, a strong understanding of the usage of models, methods and tools and techniques used in project management is critical for solving this type of question. Second tip, These types of questions comes mostly from the predictive development approach and, to be specific, from planning and monitor and control process groups. Third tip, most of the ITTO questions will come from the following four knowledge areas. They are scope, risk, procurement, and quality. So if you are thorough with the tools and techniques used in planning and monitoring and controlling processes related to these knowledge areas, you can get most of the ITTO questions correct. But don't skip the other areas. I'm just giving you which are very important for the exam. Fourth tip is read the process group, a practice guide, or part 2 of PMBOK 6th edition to have strong hold on ITTO and process flow. Okay, these are the tips for identifying and solving ITTO type questions in the exam. Let's move forward and solve the next type of question. The next question type we're going to see is more than one option seems correct. You will see many questions of this type in the exam. Out of the four options, you will find it difficult to eliminate some of the answers, or you might find more than one answer seems to be correct. So how to deal with this type of questions? This question type is an example of illusion. If you see things clearly, there is always one correct answer. However, seeing things clearly is certainly a challenge for an untrained eye. Many times you will find solve, not, avoid type questions of this nature. You'll see these keywords, not, except, what could have been done in the past, or how we could have avoided this problem, or what solution you can take now to address this issue. But you will feel out of the given options, you might stuck up with more than one option. You will not be able to eliminate the given options and find out the correct one. Now let's solve this question. You can pause the video and identify the answer and put it in the comment, and then we will solve this question together. Okay, let's solve it. You have entered into a fixed price contract with a vendor. After completing the planning phase and commencing execution, the vendor approaches you a few weeks later, admitting that they did not thoroughly review the issued statement of work, otherwise called as SOW, and that the quoted price is inadequate. They request a revision of the pricing and expect you to amend the contract. How should you respond to this situation? This is a kind of solve type question or critical thinking type question, but when it comes to the answers, the options, you will find almost all of them are appropriate. Okay, that's about more than one option seems correct type question. So let's solve this question. Yes, all the four options are valid. You will see many questions like this in the exam. To solve this type of questions, you need to keenly observe the information provided in the question. An important clue in this question is the contract type. Yes. In a fixed price contract, we will not change the agreed price unless otherwise we change the statement of work or the scope of work. To enter into a fixed price contract, the buyer, that is us, need to prepare a well-defined statement of work, and it is a responsibility of the seller to study the statement of work thoroughly and should understand everything provided in the statement of work. And once this is done, the vendor is expected to come up with a quotation, that is, how much money he expects us to pay for the work. Once the price is negotiated and agreed, the contract will be signed. And after this, the price cannot be changed unless otherwise you change the scope of work, that is, the statement of work. And we cannot change the numbers, the price, after we sign the contract because of reasons like the vendor did not read the statement of work correctly and looks like the quotation is not adequate and we need to do an amendment. We do not entertain this sort of changes when it comes to fixed price contract.
Therefore, out of the four given options, the best option is A. Politely refuse and insist the vendor adhere to the terms and conditions stated in the contract. Remember, contracts are legally enforceable documents or things. Here, you don't have to use diplomacy, you don't have to use your soft skills, interpersonal skills to manage this sort of situations. Of course, to manage the vendor, we need to apply our soft skills, our interpersonal skills. But in this particular situation, we go by the rule book. If it is fixed price contract, we will not change the agreed price unless we change the scope of work. B can be eliminated because though this is a conflict situation, when it comes to contract terms and conditions, you don't have to apply interpersonal or soft skills. Contract terms and conditions are legally enforceable, and we do not have to find a mutually acceptable solution here, as a contract type here is fixed price contract. So you can eliminate option B. When it comes to option C is valid only if the request that the vendor is making is a valid one. Whatever he is asking you is relevant. And if you want to change the grade of material, if the vendor is approaching you, we need to change the grade of material or the method we're going to use to produce to do the work, then you can consider. Price change, no. You can eliminate this option. D, escalate the matter to the procurement department. You can eliminate this as well because there's no need to do so. If the vendor's request is valid and if you're expecting to make some actions, and if that action is not within your sphere of influence, then you can escalate the matter. In case of contract-related matters, it would be your procurement department. But do you really need to escalate this matter? No, it's not at all an issue, and this is with the vendor, and according to the type of contract we signed here, that is fixed price contract, we don't have to entertain this request, and we just politely refuse and insist the vendor to adhere to the terms and conditions stated in the contract. Therefore, the right answer is option A. To solve this sort of questions in the exam, I'm going to give you some tips. Tip number 1, read the scenario carefully and find the fulcrum, that is the central theme of the question. Omit other extraneous information if found. This will help you to keep focused on the important facts and numbers or figures given in the question. Second, understand whether the scenario is solve, not, avoid, or critical thinking type questions. After knowing this, you can use the right method to approach and solve the question. Third, if the question is from people domain, see the option that is more inclined towards ethics, servant leadership, and the option which is in line with your organization's policies, procedures, and established norms. If the question is from the process domain, create the mind map and figure out what process the team is involved in at present and use expert judgment to find which option is effective, viable, and permitted. Well, that's about how we solve more than one option seems correct type questions. You'll see many questions in the exam in this pattern.
If you'd like to get coached for your PMP exam preparation, at GAN Scholar, we offer 45 hours of online PMP Prep Masterclass and we offer 35 PDUs. Most of the training companies do not offer 45 hours of training. They restrict themselves to 35 hours of training because that's the minimum hours of training a learner should take to appear for the PMP exam. But we are very different. At GAN Scholar, we know this. 35 hours is not sufficient to offer quality training. With 35 hours of training, it is very difficult for the learners to master all the PM concepts needed to pass the exam. As a training company, we are very different and above the average. You can enroll and attend the first 10 hours of the training, that is the first 2 classes of our training, at no cost. See for yourself, experience comfort, certainty, and excellence with us. And I'm pretty sure that once you attend this 10 hours of training, you will never like to take training from anywhere else. The link to enroll in our bootcamp is provided in the description, so please go and register if you like to attend our bootcamp.
The next type of question we're going to see now is Wordy type question. Some questions are designed to consume our time, and Wordy questions are those. Time management is crucial for passing the exam. On average, we should solve each question in 76 seconds. Otherwise, you will not be able to solve 180 questions in 230 minutes. Every question must be solved within 76 seconds. This is the average time we need to take to complete a question. In Wordy questions, you will find a lot of unnecessary or useless information, and you must omit them to manage your time well. Here we have an example. You can solve this question. You can also mention in the comment that out of this 5 lines of information, sentences, which sentences are sufficient enough for you to solve this question. Pause the video, solve this question, and share your thoughts in the comment, and then we can solve this question together. Alright? Okay, let's solve this question. In an agile team during the sprint, a stakeholder frequently seeks requirement, clarity, and status updates from a specific team member. The constant interruption and requests from the stakeholder are hindering the team member's ability to concentrate on the iteration goal. This is bad. The team member approaches you, that is the Scrum Master, seeking guidance on resolving this situation. How should the Scrum Master address the issue of stakeholder continuously seeking requirement clarity and status updates from the team member, which is impeding their focus on the iteration goal? Okay, this question is from Agile Team Management, and this is about the roles and responsibilities of the Scrum Master. Let's solve this question. First, if you observe the question, the first 3 lines, they hardly provide any useful information, isn't it? Yes, we understand a situation, but if you look at the last 2 sentences, that is from here to here, how should the Scrum Master address the issue of the stakeholder continuously seeking requirements, clarity, and status update from the team member, which is impeding their focus on the iteration goal? This is an example of a Wordy question. The last 2 sentences are sufficient enough to answer this question. We have all the needed information in the last 2 sentences to answer this question. This question is primarily a solve type question, but it is set in a Wordy manner with a lot of extraneous information. From the given options, we need to find out which one is the most appropriate. Let's see the options. This question is primarily set based on the responsibility of the Scrum Master. As a Scrum Master, we should shield the team from external disturbances and keep them focused on the project goals. Stakeholders frequently bugging the team members to provide information will certainly affect the performance of the team members, and this must be addressed, isn't it? Let's start with option B. We cannot choose option B because if you simply ignore the request of the stakeholder and do not respond, it's a rude behavior, isn't it? As a Scrum Master, we should never teach this to the team members as we model team members' behaviors. So you can eliminate option B. Option C can also be eliminated because you're not really solving the problem. After you change the team member and deploy a new team member to perform this task, the stakeholder will continue to interrupt the new team member, isn't it? So you can eliminate option C as well. Let's talk about option D. Option D is a good option. However, if you think from Scrum framework, it is the duty of the Scrum Master to solve problems faced by the team members. Option D is about the team member reporting a concern and you're asking the team member to solve it. This is not acceptable. Always remember, a Scrum Master should be a servant leader. Therefore, the correct option is option A. You are engaging with the stakeholder and understanding the problem and providing the solution that will help you to shield your team from unnecessary work interruption. This seems to be a valid solution, very good solution, isn't it? So the right answer is option A. Here are the tips for solving wordy questions. Tip number 1, whenever you encounter a wordy question, this means 4 or more lines in length, you can directly read the last 2 phrases of the question. If you find them complete and can answer the question, then you can omit the rest of the question. Be careful while applying this technique. Only use this technique if you are doing toe-to-toe with your exam time. Suppose you have sufficient time, then it is good to skim through the entire question at least once. Tip 3. You can use the striker pen feature to strike out all the unnecessary part of the question to focus on the information that matters. In the exam, you will find a small icon in your exam user interface with a pen symbol, and if you click the symbol, you will get a digital pen with which you can strike out all the unnecessary information. For example, you can strike out things like this. So whichever portion of the question you find useless, you can strike out them. Okay? This is a time-consuming process, but if you want, you can apply this method, and maybe when you mark this question for review and check the answer later, try to solve it later, the strikes you made will help you to save a lot of time. That's about the tricks you need to follow to manage wordy questions. This question is about ethics, values, and moral. End of the day, the PM has to be ethical and show their project management practices. PMI takes ethics and the code of conduct very seriously. PMI set 4 values for project management. They are responsibility, respect, fairness, and honesty. A PM must always uphold these values at any cost. Well, at least for the exam. Though you find a few direct questions on ethics, but we must follow ethics while answering all the 180 questions. Many times, you would be able to eliminate many incorrect options simply by identifying they violate ethics and values. This should be your first filter you must apply before selecting any option. Before selecting an option, always think, by choosing this option, am I violating any of the 4 values, code of ethics or values defined by PMI? Okay, now let's solve this question. You can pause the video, solve this question, and later we will solve this question together. Now let's solve this question together. Your customer approaches you and offers an additional reward of $500,000 if you can complete the project 1 month earlier than the planned due date. To achieve this, you would need your team members to work for 14 hours per day for the next month, all the days in the next month. You have confirmed this with your HR department and you found that there is no violation of human resource policies. Everything is okay. You got confirmation from the human resource department that you can make people to work this way. As a project manager, what would be your next action? Good question. Now let's see how to solve this question. To start with, this is a next type question. As you could see, the keyword next. And we are expected to find out what should be our next course of action. On top of this, if you carefully review the scenario, this is actually an ethic type question. We need to pay attention to few key information provided in the question. First, this request is coming from your customer, and we know that the customer is an important stakeholder and we need to keep them satisfied. Second, we are also going to get a reward to fulfill the customer's request. So it's a win-win situation. The only challenge you see here is we must make the team members to work for extended hours on daily basis for the next month. And good that you check this with the human resource department, whether it is acceptable to make people to work like this way, and you got a green signal from them as well. Well, of course, in real life,
this won't be acceptable. Just for the scenario's sake, we are assuming there's no violation of human resource policies and labor law. So it looks like everything is favoring you to take this call, but wait, we shouldn't do this. As a leader, we must always think, are we doing good to people? We are responsible for the well-being of our team members. Making them to work for 14 hours per day is inhuman, isn't it? Though you're going to achieve a bigger reward from your client, also your human resource department is fine with this, you should not agree for this proposal. Option A and C are about you have had accepted this proposal and finding a way to do it. So you can eliminate these two options. Accept the customer's proposal and make the team members work for 14 hours per day. This is inhuman. We should not do this. Option C, discuss the customer's proposal with the team members and seek their input and agreement. Well, this seems to be a very convincing answer. However, you should not take this proposal to your team members. Even some of them are willing to accept this challenge. You should not make them to work 14 hours per day. Okay, this is not good. They will suffer. Maybe for 1 or 2 days, this is fine. If we expect them to work like this for the next whole month, this is not good. So we have eliminated option A and C. Directly rejecting customer proposal is not a good decision, isn't it? Because this will make the customer to feel bad and may affect your work relationship with him. And therefore, you can eliminate option B as well. The final option left out is D. Negotiate a compromise with the customer, offering alternative solutions that do not require excessive working hours. Well, this is a good strategy. We sit and negotiate a solution that brings some level of satisfaction to both the parties. Therefore, option D is the correct answer. Great. I would like to share you some important exam tips to solve ethics-based question. You can expect minimum 4 to 5 ethics-based question in the exam. The first tip for you is most ethics questions will originate from the develop team, manage team, stakeholder engagement, and procurement management processes. So whenever you read these processes, learn the concepts related to these processes, always take the required notes on where and all you need to apply ethics and values. Second, never do anything that harm or cause suffering to other humans or environment. Be human and have compassion. Third tip is always follow servant leadership, follow companies and industries and the government policies and rules. Do not violate any of these things when you make a decision. That's about the tips you need to know to solve ethics-based questions. Great. Let's move forward and solve the next type question. The last question we have on the list is the math question or calculation type questions. Sometimes we need to do calculations and don't panic. You have the calculator with you. Okay, so do not panic. In the exam, you will find a calculator icon in your exam window. If you click this icon, it will open up a calculator for you, just like our Windows calculator we have in our computer. And we have to use our mouse to press the buttons and do the calculations. All right. Most likely, you have to solve only one math question. Maximum worst case, 2 questions. That's it. Before we solve this question, I want to give you a heads up. Math and project management rarely go beyond division. Moreover, ignoring math questions is not a good strategy. Though, yeah, I agree, we will see only one question in the exam coming from math. Skipping it is not a good strategy. The reason is, math questions shall come from areas like earned value management, on-demand scheduling, expected monitor value from risk management, and a concept called value stream mapping, and so on. These concepts are not merely about calculation.
We need a strong hold of these concepts to shine as a good project manager and lead real projects. Though you're going to see only one math question or maximum two questions in the exam, if you skip this question, still you will do well, but I won't recommend that for you. Because you will see many other questions which will be coming based on concepts like earned value management, on-demand scheduling, or value stream mapping. If you completely plan to skip these topics to avoid math-based question, most likely you will find it difficult to solve the other questions which are coming based on these concepts. So don't do it, alright? And moreover, as I already mentioned, you have the calculator. We need to do simple calculations like addition, division. So we should never skip these questions. Before we solve this question, I know many of us would find earned value management a difficult topic to deal with, isn't it? I'm here to help you out. When it comes to math-based question, for some of us, we may not be okay with this earned value management concept, otherwise called EVM. But don't worry, I prepared a wonderful video lecture for you, and you can find it in our Can Scholar YouTube channel. It's a 4 hours lecture, and in this video I have covered everything you need to know about earned value management, and I have used a brain-friendly approach for you to cover all the concepts in earned value management. Alright, so you will definitely like this video and find it very helpful. I request you to see this video in case if you find it difficult to master concepts related to earned value management. Okay, I will provide this video link in the description, so please use this link and watch this video if you need to master concepts related to earned value management. Now let's solve this question. You can pause the video and solve this question. Once you're done, we can solve this question together. Okay, let's solve this question. You are involved in developing a project schedule using on-demand scheduling. The project consists of 3 process steps. Process A with a cycle time of 1.5 hours. Process B with a cycle time of 2.5 hours. And process C with a cycle time of 4.5 hours. Let's create a small picture here based on the information we have in the scenario. A process is made of many process steps. In this case, we have 3 process steps, namely A, B, and C, isn't it? And we also have the cycle time of each process step, that is 1.5 hours for A, 2.5 hours for B, and 4.5 hours for C. These are in hours, okay? Considering a given window of 48 hours, what is the throughput of this process? Very direct question. So they're expecting us to calculate throughput, and the given time window is 48 hours. To calculate throughput of any process, first we need to take the total time window. Here it is 48 hours, so we take the time window provided and divide this value with the cycle time of the bottleneck process step. In this case, the bottleneck process step is C and its cycle time is 4.5 hours. How to find out the bottleneck process step? Whichever process step has the highest cycle time, that would be the bottleneck process step. So in this case, it's 4.5 because A has only 1.5 hours of cycle time and B has only 2.5 hours of cycle time. And therefore, in this case, the bottleneck process step is C and its cycle time is 4.5 hours. Okay, this is the bottleneck process cycle time. And the total time window provided is 48 hours. Now if you do the calculation, that is 48 hours divided by 4.5 hours. both in the numerator and denominator we have the same unit, that is hours. So we just need to do this calculation. And after doing the calculation, we found out it's 10.6. So that's the number of unit of work we will be able to complete in 48 hours. And out of this 4 option A is close to 10.6, and so we are going with option A, and we can eliminate the remaining options. So option A, 10 is the right answer. Well, if you want to learn more about on-demand scheduling and Kanban methodology, because this question is based on on-demand scheduling and Kanban methodology, and in the exam, PMP exam, because we have equal weightage for both predictive and agile, you will see some questions coming from Kanban methodology, especially questions related to cycle time, throughput, on-demand scheduling, lead time, and so on. And of course, we have some concepts like Kanban board, then WIP limits, otherwise called as work in progress. So for this, I have a wonderful article for you. I will share this with you. You can refer to this blog. I wrote this blog a year before, and it's an excellent blog on on-demand scheduling and Kanban methodology. In this blog, you will find all the necessary information we need to know to master the concepts related to on-demand scheduling and Kanban methodology and answer tricky questions we expect in the exam from this area, from this topic. All right. So please refer to this blog. Great. With that done, we are done with this question. Now let's talk about the exam tips. What are the tips we need to know to solve math questions? Math and project management rarely go beyond division. Moreover, ignoring math question is not a good strategy. Math questions shall come from EVM, on-demand scheduling, expected monetary value from risk management, and value stream mapping. So be thorough with all these concepts. If you are thorough with these concepts, then you can easily solve math questions.
Excellent. With this, we are done with all the type of questions we had in the list. I'm pretty sure that you found this discussion intriguing and had fun with the practice questions. After learning the types of questions, we must convert this knowledge into action. You must use a reliable mock exam simulator to get ready to face the real exam and to identify your knowledge gaps. After taking each mock exam, we must review our answers to identify our areas of strengths and weaknesses, and we must work on our weaknesses. You can use this checklist to identify which type of questions you struggle. Columns E and F are where we need to fill the actuals. How many questions you faced in each category, and of them, how many you got right. The percentage will be automatically calculated. Here you see the criteria with which you can identify which types of questions you do well and which ones are your blind spots. You need to review all of your answers, both correctly and wrongly answered questions. Of course, this is going to take some time, but trust me, the outcome is incredibly beneficial. You can use this checklist after completing every mock exam to assess your exam performance. The link to download this checklist is provided in the description, so please check out. I can confidently say you have learned something very valuable today. The things you learned today will certainly catapult you in your PMP certification journey. You can help others like you who are preparing for their PMP exam by liking and sharing this video. Remember, victory loves preparation, and you are doing the right thing. I will meet you again with another interesting video. Till then, goodbye.